welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new stencil, Falling Hearts Stencils. So let's go ahead and check it out. This stencil is a 2-pack, so you can use the stencils on their own, or you can layer them together to get a really cool Falling Hearts design. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like all inked up. So I'm going to start off here with a landscape style standard size card, 5.5 by 4.25. Of course, you could do different sizes, and of course, you can do portrait as well too. And we're going to layer this stencil right on, and I'm using one of these little ArtStation boards that has some magnets to hold it in place, but you could easily use some low-tack tape like washi tape to hold this in place. And right now I'm using some Peachy King ink, which is a really kind of pretty peachy pink color, and I'm just going to ink over the stencil there, making sure to get those little top edges as well. You'll see I'm just checking to make sure that I did that all well. And now we can lift up the stencil, which is my absolute favorite part, and you can see what a cute design that is. Now here we can take our second stencil and fit it right in, and you'll see that those stencils are going to fit right into the missing areas of the other pattern. And of course you can use the stencil just plain on its own, or you can layer the two, and in this case I thought it would be fun to do kind of a dual color design. So right now we're using guava ink, which is a much brighter pink, and we're going to layer that all over the stencil. And I have a tendency to like using the darker ink for the stencil that has less hearts on it, because I feel like it just looks really nice. So those little darker pink hearts popping amongst the lighter pink, and you can see just how beautiful this design is. Now, one of the things that I love about this stencil is you can get a lot of different looks with it depending on how you place it onto your card. So here I'm actually going to shift it up all of the way there, and I actually used that little grass border there as a guide, and I'll show you how it layers over in just a little bit. So I shifted the stencil all the way up so that my falling hearts would end before my grass and also not be quite as dense. So here I'm using the part of the stencil that has less hearts, and it's a little bit more like rain, right? And so we're going to do that, and now we can take our second stencil and line that one up, and then we can ink over that one. So we're using the same exact colors, we're just using a different part of the stencil to get a really different look from the same stencil. So now we can lift that up, and you'll see just how pretty this design is. And here you can see a comparison between the one that has more hearts and the one that has less hearts, depending on how we place the stencil. And it really depends on what kind of look you're going for on your card. So here I have our heart garden border, and I just wanted to show you how different it looks when you layer this grassy border on there as if you were creating a scene. So that one has a ton of hearts, and this one has less, making it look a little bit more like it's raining. So I love that you can really play around with how this looks. Now, next up, I'm going to be doing a portrait style, so you can see how this stencil looks in portrait. And this time, we're going to be using the same Peachy King ink for both of the hearts. Of course, you could use all different colors. You could do pinks and purples, you can do blues, greens, anything that you can think of. But I think it's really nice that you can have contrasting colors, or you can have a same color. So it just looks like you stencil with one big stencil, which is pretty cool. So now we're going to line up the smaller stencil there. And by smaller, I mean less hearts. I always call it the smaller one, but it just has less hearts. And we're going to just ink over those with our ink pad, once again in the same color, so that now instead of contrasting, we're just going to have a bunch of hearts in this pretty peachy keen pink color. Next, I thought it would be pretty to add a little bit of that peachy keen ink just along the sides. So it's the same exact ink color. I'm just ink blending it darker on the outside, and it's going to fade into white in the middle. And I think this is a really, really pretty look. It would be a perfect sky for a Valentine's card. And here you can see kind of the final look of what that looks like. Now, another way to use this stencil is to ink over pattern paper, and this is some watercolor wishes paper, and I decided to keep on with my tone on tone theme, so we're going to do the Peachy King ink over this pink watercolor wishes paper, and this time we are shifting the stencil up. Just like we did on our landscape card, you can do this on the portrait as well. So we've shifted the stencil up, and then we can lift up that stencil there. Oh, I'm going to make sure I ink just a little bit more. I'm always worried I missed a heart. And then I'm going to lift that up, and you can see how pretty that's going to look, and then we're going to bring in the second stencil, and we're going to ink it up. Once again, we're doing everything in the same color just to kind of see what that looks like, and now we've shifted the stencils up to get a different look on our design. Now, another really fun thing to do with this stencil is play with paste. And in this case, I'm taking out my very favorite paste, which is Fairy Dust. And it's this pretty clear iridescent color. And so we're going to go right over those hearts there. And it's going to give it this pretty glittery shine. So I'm just adding some of it on and then just smearing it with my spatula there, giving a nice thin layer, smearing it over all of my hearts. And you'll see that it's kind of going to give this beautiful accent to just some of the hearts, since we're only doing it on one of the stencils. So we're going to lift that that up and you'll see, isn't that just gorgeous? Ugh, I love it so much. And then here is a little look at it after it's dried, and it looks even more beautiful. It's shiny and sparkly, and I love how it accents just some of the hearts just a little bit. I was in love with this so much, I thought, well, what if I went back to one of my other designs? So here's the landscape one where we use the full stencil onto our card. And we're going to take the stencil there that has less hearts. I like doing the glitter on the one that has less hearts. That way there's just like a little bit of glitter every once in a while. I think it's just so gorgeous. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pick up some of that fairy dust stencil paste and we're going to layer it over and we're going to highlight now some of those hearts. And in this case, we did a contrasting color with a light pink and a dark pink on the hearts. And on the dark pink, we're now adding this glitter. So it's just going to be a really, really beautiful pop. And this is my favorite, lifting up that stencil. And then we're going to be able to see that beautiful glitter on there. Here's what it looks like when it's wet. And then after it dries, you can just see that gorgeous sparkle and shine. And it gives it almost like a little bit of a three-dimensional look too. Then here is a look at the two portrait styles again. So you can see the one that has the whole stencil versus the one that has a partial stencil. And I wanted to layer over the garden border on these portrait style ones too, so you can see what a cute little scene would look like. This is adorable with more hearts, or you can go on over to the other one and you'll have less hearts that kind of fade out into nothing towards the bottom, which I think is so pretty. And then here we're going to have a comparison between all four of the styles that we did. We had the landscape and portrait, we have contrasting pinks versus the same pinks, we have glitter versus not. So much fun, so many cool things you can do with this. And first up, Shari is going to show you how to do something really cool with the white paste and the stencils. So take it away, Shari.
On my card today, I am going to be creating a background using the new Falling Hearts Stencils. This is a two-part stencil, and I'm going to be using two different techniques. For my background, I have cut a piece of Distress White Heavy Stock with a stitch rectangle. This is the largest stitch rectangle. I've put some removable adhesive on the back so it will stick to my media mat, and then I will use the magnets to hold my stencil in place. Now for this first layer, I'm just using some ink. I have my ballet slippers ink and a blending brush, and I'm just going to put down a light layer of some pale pink hearts. So I'm just working all over to make sure all those hearts that are on this piece of paper are filled with some pink ink. Now I can remove that stencil and bring in the second one. You can see how these hearts line up in some of the negative space that the first stencil left. I'm also using my grid mat to make sure I have it in the same place as the first one. And I'm just going to push that aside because I'm going to make some custom colored stencil paste. So I have some white stencil paste and I'm just going to get a little bit of that out. And then I'm adding a couple drops of lobster re-inker. So I only added 3 drops of the re-inker, and then I'm just going to work that color into the paste. And it takes a little bit to work it in because at first it looks very wet and sort of kind of separates, but if you keep working, it will work its way into the paste and you'll get this really pretty paste. Now it's not as red as the lobster ink. You could add more if you wanted it really red, but I like that it kind of makes a very dark pinky color. So once I have this mixed up, I'm going to add it to my stencil. So I'm just making sure that I fill in all those hearts. Pulling that stencil paste, I'm starting at the top and working my way down to the bottom. And then once they're all filled in, I'm going to scrape off the excess and then carefully peel this up to reveal those dark paste hearts through the stencil. Now I do have some stencil paste left, so I went ahead and decided I was just going to use that up. So I had a piece of ballet slipper cardstock sitting in my stash. I pulled that out, added some hearts to it, and then I also did the same to a piece of craft cardstock. And then I can just keep these and use them for a project later, but my paste that I colored with the re-inker did not go to waste. It really looks pretty cool on the craft cardstock, I think. So I let my stencil paste dry, and now I can move on to the other parts of my card. So I have my Nitpicky Winter Petite paper pack, and I've pulled out the green paper that has that larger sort of sweater pattern. And I'm using the heart garden border to cut out the bottom portion of my card. So this will give me some grass and some flowers or hearts coming up on the stems. Now I did cut the whole piece so that I could decide which of these flowers I wanted on my portrait card. And I decided to kind of do one side, and I'm making sure that the flowers on each side touch that edge of the cardstock. So I'll trim a little bit off each side. I really love that these were spaced so perfectly that I could fit these all the way across the bottom and not even have to trim off any of the flowers on either side. Now for the little hearts that are going to go on the top of the stems, I cut the hearts from guava cardstock and chili pepper cardstock because I thought that would look really good with those darker hearts in my stenciled sky. And I'm just going to go back and forth between the two colors and add the little hearts to the stems. Now you can see I also have some little beavers holding the heart. This is from the Would You Be Mine stamp set. I've already colored and cut them out. And they're going to go in the center. That's kind of why I pulled it out to see sort of where they were going to fall. So now all my flowers are done, and I'm moving on to my sentiment. Now this banner is cut from the Heart Garland backdrop. This is from the portrait one, and I'm taking the sentiment. This is Would You Be Mine from the Would You Be Mine stamp set, and I'm just inking up the latter part of that because I'm going to use some die cuts to spell out the word would above this. So I'm just stamping You Be Mine on this little banner. I just love that stitching detail on this banner. And then I have cut with Henry's ABCs the word wood, and I cut it from some light brown wood grain cardstock, and then I'm just using some walnut ink to darken up the bottom so it has kind of a variegated look. Now I'm using my grid mat to line up the words, and then I'm going to pull out a piece of removable tape to just hold these in place. I'm going to go ahead and put my whole panel onto my card base. And then I added some really thin foam strips to the back of my die cut letters. This will pop them up off the background and give them some really fun dimension. I'm just using the tape to pick them all up at once, put the whole word down, and then I can pull that tape off. Then I also have some foam squares on the back of the little banner, and that's just going to line up right below those die cut letters above. And then finally, it's time to add my little beavers, and I wanted to stamp something in the heart. So I'm pulling out the little stamp that says Happy Valentine's Day. This fits perfectly into that little heart. And I just think this is so cute with that sentiment in the heart. I also added some black glaze to their noses. You can see that shine there. I'm going to put these at the bottom of my card, and I've added some foam squares to them as well. And I like how that heart in the garden border, that one in the center pops up kind of right between these two beavers. I think that is so cute. It's just a happy accident. And of course, I always need to add some glitter. So I am adding some stickles glitter glue to my little heart flowers. And then I also decided to add some to the bottom of the letters to kind of make them look like they've been dipped in glitter. And I really think that was a really fun look. I also added a little bit to the heart, but I did not go over top of the words because I wanted to make sure those stayed nice and clear. So I just kind of outlined it with the glitter. And then here is my finished card. I love all that glitter and that stencil in the background with the paste combined with the ink is really super fun. I just love the look of this.
Oh my goodness, Shari, I am in love with this. I love how you added color to the paste and how many backgrounds you were able to get from it too. This is so cute and so fun. And next up, I'm going to be recreating a card by Elena that is just gorgeous. And we're going to be doing some tone-on-tone things. So here we have some watercolor wishes paper in the birthday candles color, which is kind of like a turquoisey blue. And we're going to take that stencil and we're going to layer it over top. And we're going to be using some mermaid ink for a tone-on-tone look. And so you can see that you can use these hearts. It doesn't always have to be pink and red. You can get a different look out of these. And in this case, I love this tone-on-tone look because it's going to give us kind of like a sky for our background that just has a little bit of subtle texture to it. So we're going to bring this mermaid color all over this stencil, and then we can lift it up and have our big reveal. Now at this point, I thought that might actually be enough hearts for my background. I may not need the second stencil, but I wasn't sure. And I knew I was going to use this Peekaboo backdrop, so I went ahead and die cut that out of some white cardstock. And this is such a fun backdrop because it has all these little scenes you can create. And as I layered that over, I thought, you know what? No, it needs more hearts. It definitely does. So I brought out the second stencil and lined that up. And now we're going to ink that up with the same mermaid color. Because once again, we're trying to do a subtle tone-on-tone background that just adds a little extra texture to the card. So I love that you can use this as the star of the show, like Shari did, or you can kind of have it be a subtle background for a beautiful Valentine card. So now we can lift up that stencil and we have a lot more hearts, which looks super, super cute. Now I'm going to take that same mermaid ink and just ink the edges at the top just a little bit because I wanted there to be a gradient where the top was just subtly darker than the bottom. So I just went ahead and bring some of that ink up just at the very top, layering over that Peekaboo backdrop to make sure I like it, and I think it looks great. So now I'm going to take some of these foam strips and I'm going to layer these foam strips onto the backdrop, and that's going to give it a nice pop for setting all of our 4 individual scenes. Then we can layer that over the hearts, and already you can see how the hearts are just giving a subtle background for us to be able to create a really cool card. So next we're going to shop our stamp stash, and we are going to be using Sent with Love and the add-on Happy Hugs, and of course the sets from this release, Would You Be Mine and So Damn Much. And Ella was inspired by the beavers that are hugging in So Damn Much to look through her sets and find other hugging critters, and Happy Hugs was a perfect place to go for that. So it's really fun to be able to mix and match these little critters, and of course the Peekaboo backdrop gives you these perfect little scenes for you to be able to use these. Now for that little Valentine heart there from Sent with Love, we're going to stamp the XOXO that's in that stamp set, and then we're going to add some foam squares to the top and tape runner to the bottom of these so they're going to be kind of tucked in the frame but then popped up at the top, and I think that's a really cool look. And so we're going to add that to our first little scene. I almost think of this as like a comic book strip, and you've got the cute little scenes of each one. Now there we have our critters from Happy Hugs, and we're going to add a little Valentine there that comes from Sent with Love as well, and so we're just going to layer that into the card. Looks super cute with that little envelope. Now, of course, we have So Damn Much, and these guys are just adorable, and we're going to layer them into the other big square or rectangle, excuse me, that we have there. We have the smaller squares, and then we're going to tuck in the little branch that comes in Would You Be Mine, and then Would You Be Mine has this cute little handmade card and a little heart that fits in it. So we're going to stamp the heart, and then we're going to color the card in red. This card has a ton of pops of red, so I thought it'd be cute to have a handmade card on a handmade card, and that's what we're going to do with this little guy here. And of course, we're going to add some white gel pen details to this too, because this whole card has a ton of white gel pen details that make it feel really special. We're going to layer a little bow there on one of those cute little beavers, and then we're going to layer our little card next. Many of lawnfawn sets have speech bubbles in them, and Ugly and Bright is one of those. So we are going to borrow the speech bubble, but what's cool about our sets is when we have things like those speech bubbles, they often fit with a lot of other sentiments. And so these speech bubbles are going to perfectly fit with some of the tiny sentiments that are in Would You Be Mine. And I love being able to mix and match stamp sets like this. And so we're going to be stamp outing Would You Be Mine, and also, of course, You plus me into these speech bubbles. We're also going to stamp Happy Heart Day that comes from Would You Be Mine as well to be the sentiment for the card. Then next up, we're going to do some coloring there. We're going to add some color to that cute heart, and then we're going to do some die cutting. So we're going to die cut our speech bubbles, and then we're also going to die cut that little Happy Heart Day, and we're going to be using a sentiment banner to do that. And we'll line it up with the edge. That way there's kind of a cut off banner that's going to look really cute on the card. Now, I die cut that banner a bit too long, so I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off any of the excess. And then we can add some tape runner to that because I kind of want it to be in the background since all of our critters are popped. I like the sentiment being in the background a little bit. And we're just going to tuck that into the edge of the scene and layer that down. And I love things coming either out from the edge, kind of like we've done with the different critters. I also like things overlapping like we did with the flowers and that you plus me speech bubble. There's something about it that really makes it feel like comic strippy to me. I think it's super cute. Now we're going to layer in some hearts there in our top scene just to kind of fill in that area and give our pops of red. And then for the rest of the scene here with our fox and bunny, we're going to add a fun little rose and cupcake that also come from that Scent with Love add-on that has like all these fun Valentine's Day images. We're going to take the chocolate box here and we're going to layer that once again over the edge a little bit. It's kind of like tucked in and over the edge, and I just think that looks so cute. We can add our little hugging mice from Happy Hugs, and then we're going to layer in some more of these hearts for just a fun pop of color. And there's something about that pop of red with the little white gel pen detail that looks just so cute and so fun on this card. So now I had a couple little extra hearts and I thought, well, why not? We're just going to add them around because that is the theme of this card, is hugs and hearts. And then now we're going to add some tape runner to a standard size card base at 5.5 by 4.25. And then we can layer our card on top and this card is all done. I love that we were able to use the Falling Hearts stencil in a more subtle look and to be able to create these cute little scenes that are just adorable and such a fun way to mix and match your stamp sets and kind of shop your stash. Next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team, and this card by Elena is the one that inspired us to make ours today, and I just love it. This card here by Mindy is so beautiful. I love how she ink blended a background, and then she stenciled over that. It looks stunning. Grace shows us that you can use this beautiful Falling Heart stencil in so many designs, and it looks so cute with our Berry Rainy Day stamp set and that heart Gordon border. I love how she added some stencil paste over top too to give them some 3 dimensions. This card by Audrey is so fun. I love her ink blended background and that big sentiment over top. And then here, Letitia made such a sweet card. I love how she layered the heart garland backdrop right over top of the hearts. It's so pretty. This card by Megan is so sweet, and I love how she added vellum over top of the falling hearts to give it a more subtle look. And then here, Elise created a really beautiful background for this adorable card, and I love how she has everything centered bottom right. So cute and fun. And then this card by Callie is amazing. I love how she layered all of the hearts together over and over to create such a cool background. And I love Kara's beautiful background with the Falling Heart stencil for the giant outline love ya. So cute, so fun and happy. I just adore it. And we cannot wait to see what you guys are going to create with this stencil, so make sure to share it with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!